In this video we want to talk about high performance working, and we want to do this in the context of stakeholders and partnerships. The role of stakeholders in high performance working is important. Stakeholders play a key role in high performance working organizations. It's important that the key stakeholders subscribe to the objectives of high performance working. It's important that the key stakeholders are committed to this type of organization. If they're not, it won't work. An organization can only become a high performance working organization if it has the cooperation of all stakeholders, including both the internal and external stakeholders. Let's look at some of the possible stakeholders involved in this and just classify them under internal, external, and show how they're connected. We'll start with the internal stakeholders. Now, the list I'm giving here is not complete. I'm sure we could find more, but it's just illustrative. It makes the point that there are internal stakeholders, and typically these are the type of individuals we would find as stakeholders within the company. So, for example, we find the owners. That's a stakeholder group. It may be a sole proprietor, in which case there's only one, but it could be a limited company where there may be 5 or 6, up to 7 for private limited companies, or if it's a PLC, a public limited company, there can be many owners. All the shareholders are owners. The managers are also stakeholders, as are the employees. They've got an interest in the organization as well. Now, as I said, we can extend this to others who may be involved to a greater or lesser extent. But just to illustrate the point, the internal stakeholders are individuals such as these. Now, the external stakeholders, well, society. We've all got an interest in companies and the company's welfare, because the companies create employment and create welfare for the community. So ultimately, all the services of government depend on companies. Companies pay tax, and the tax is used to pay for benefits and the welfare of the community, for the defense of the country, and so on. So society benefits from having the companies. But society also benefits if the companies are high performance workers, if they are particularly efficient, because in that way they're able to gain markets overseas and expand and create more employment and pay more tax. Suppliers are external stakeholders. They're outside the company, but they depend on the company, so they are interested in the welfare of the company, as indeed are customers. They want the products, so they want the company to do well and to survive. Creditors, the company may owe the banks some money. It's borrowed for, let's say, for investment. The banks have an interest, or the creditors have an interest, to make sure that their investments are returned. The government, as I said earlier, has an interest to make sure that the company is doing well. So we can see there are many types of stakeholders, and again, as I said before, we could extend this list, but just for illustration purposes, this is plenty. We could add in, of course, shareholders as well on the company side. And the organization spans these. So the organization has internal and external stakeholders, and it needs the collaboration of these in order to become a high performance working organization. Now, the role of stakeholders in high performance working. Well, high performance working organizations maintain long-term relationships with all stakeholders through networking and building positive communications channels. So high performance working organizations have long-term relationships with the stakeholders. The stakeholders, be it the customers, the government, the trade unions, whoever it is, will have a relationship with the organization. And it's important that the organization and the stakeholders are in agreement about the way forward, so that there is encouragement, collaboration, support. There is a direction that all of them are pointing in, and that direction is towards high performance working, more efficiency, better long-term relationships with the stakeholders, and better long-term prosperity for the business, who will gain from productivity gains and will gain from a better image in the marketplace. So it'll be able to effectively compete in the market and win customers. So it's important that the organization has this relationship with the stakeholders. The organizations grow through partnerships with customers and suppliers, having mutual understanding and sharing the same goals. So although let's say the suppliers are stakeholders of the organization, because the suppliers have perhaps been a long-term supplier of the organization, it becomes more than just simply a customer-buyer relationship. It becomes like a partnership. They understand each other. But so also do the employees in the organization. They understand the organization. They've been working there. They see how it's run. They see the way it's changing. They understand it. So they're forming a partnership with the organization as well. It's much more than just simply being a stakeholder. These are long-term relationships. External stakeholders would benefit from high-performance working organizations. High-performance working organizations are more profitable. Shareholders have more confidence in taking investment decisions. So the external stakeholders are keen that the organization should flourish. As it becomes more profitable, the stakeholders have more confidence in making investment decisions, and the stakeholders will invest more. They will facilitate the organization more in what it wants. Implementation of government policy and procedures. If the organization is keen to participate with government initiatives and implement initiatives, and the government has confidence in the organization, and the organization in turn has confidence in the government, there is a type of partnership between the government and the organization developing. More confidence, more security. So the organization is more confident about the future, as indeed will be its employees, its suppliers, its customers. So it's projecting an image of confidence, because it works towards working with government and with the external stakeholders as well as the internal ones, as I mentioned earlier. High performance working organizations contribute towards society by providing growth opportunities. Society benefits because as the company flourishes and grows, there will be more employment prospects, more training prospects, and that means more people will have work, more prosperity in the community, and society benefits as a consequence of that. Internal stakeholders would benefit from high performance working activities. Employees will play a positive role as they will feel part of a team. So when a company is trying to be efficient and engaging with the employees and with the other stakeholders, the employees feel part of it. They feel consulted. They feel they're working on the same side as the management. So there'll be more team working spirit within the organization, and that will foster greater efficiency, more productivity, more commitment, and greater flexibility as well in terms of the management of the organisation. Employees will switch roles because they know it's in the interest of the organisation and they relate to the organisation. Management will be able to cooperate more effectively with employees as they all are working towards the same goal. If management and the employees have common purpose, then they will collaborate, they will work together, they will help each other, support each other. It's not a question of them on one side and us on the other side. It's not a question of antagonism. It's one of cooperation. They are working towards the same goals. The same goals could be expansion of the business, beating the competitors, expanding the markets, having growth. Because when the company grows, the employees will benefit as well through greater job security, perhaps more remuneration, better working conditions, but also they feel involved, that are being consulted. So it's more collaborative. Improved efficiencies within the organisation will benefit the wider community, customers, and gain competitive advantage. So when the organisation is working towards high performance working and it's involving the employees are committed. And if they're committed, it'll be easier for the organisation to introduce efficiencies and work with the employees. The organisation will therefore gain competitive advantage over its competitors. It will enable it to perhaps expand into foreign markets or overseas markets. It'll enable it to introduce new products, engage in research and development and innovation, and perhaps take on slightly riskier activities, knowing confidently that it has the support of the workforce. Stakeholders and partnerships all contribute to the development of high-performance working organizations. That's the point, that all are involved. It's not just the company doing it and forcing it on the rest. It is collaborative. High-performance working organizations are sustainable in the long run as they are efficient and more able to meet the needs of different stakeholders. So they have more prospects of surviving in the long run. They have more prospects of competing effectively in all markets. They're able to introduce innovations and change. They're able to discuss openly and honestly with the stakeholders who understand the organization, who understand what it's trying to do, and who generally support it. When conflict does arise between them, they're able to speak about it and resolve it amicably. And it's important that they understand each other's perspective, I should say, so that they are able to resolve issues efficiently and move on with the task of dealing with the external competitive environment. These organizations are more likely to grow into international businesses and be able to continuously innovate. So there are benefits here for the organization. That's the point. And the organization should be able to not just grow domestically, but grow in an international sense by entering new markets, but also introduce innovations, because the stakeholders know that it needs to innovate in order to survive. It needs to adopt new technology. It needs to engage with modernity to ensure its own survival. So these are some ideas about the role of stakeholders in high-performance working organizations, and the way in which partnerships emerge within that environment. A partnership between the employees and the management, a partnership between the suppliers and the management, a partnership between the government and the management, and so on. And these partnerships, the way we use the word is, it's a long-term understanding of each other's position. It's a long-term commitment to support each other so that the organization is able to deal with the single big threat of international competition in a technologically changing world. But that's all we need to do on this topic, so let's leave it at that and say thank you for watching.